The world is on the brink of a food crisis, a slow-burning disaster with the potential to disrupt lives on a global scale. While we may not see empty supermarket shelves just yet, the warning signs are impossible to ignore. Food prices, already steadily climbing for months, are poised to explode, pushing millions into food insecurity and threatening social stability. This is not a crisis of the distant future, but a clear and present danger we must confront today. The reasons for this impending crisis are complex and interconnected, stemming from a perfect storm of global events, climate change, and economic instability. Droughts, exacerbated by a warming planet, are crippling agricultural production in key food-producing regions. Geopolitical conflicts, like the ongoing war in Ukraine, are disrupting supply chains and driving up the cost of essential agricultural inputs like fertilizers. This confluence of factors paints a grim picture for the future of food security. As the global population continues to grow and the effects of climate change intensify, our ability to produce and distribute food affordably and equitably is being stretched to the breaking point. The time to act is now, to address the root causes of this crisis and build a more resilient and sustainable food system for all. The food we consume today is largely a product of last year's harvest. Droughts, conflicts, and rising costs now will severely impact food prices in the coming months. We face a looming shortage that could leave millions struggling to put food on their tables. Consider the wheat in our bread and pasta, planted and processed months ago. As stocks dwindle, the true cost of this year's challenges will become clear. The lag between agricultural problems and supermarket shortages is dangerous. We must act swiftly to mitigate the crisis before it fully materializes. Droughts fueled by a changing climate are a significant threat to global food security. These prolonged dry periods are now occurring with alarming frequency and intensity, decimating crops, depleting water resources, and pushing agricultural systems to their limits. This crisis threatens the foundation of our global food supply. The American West is experiencing one of the most severe droughts in over a century. The Colorado River, a lifeline for millions, is drying up, jeopardizing future harvests. From Kansas to California, drought is wreaking havoc on American agriculture. The situation is equally dire worldwide. In the Horn of Africa, a multi-year drought has pushed millions to the brink of famine. In Europe, severe drought conditions have led to a sharp decline in crop yields. Climate change is a present reality, undermining our ability to feed ourselves. Geopolitical conflicts, like the ongoing war in Ukraine, are throwing a wrench into the already fragile global food system. Ukraine, often referred to as the breadbasket of Europe, is a major exporter of wheat, corn, and sunflower oil, feeding millions around the world. The ongoing conflict has crippled its agricultural sector, disrupting planting seasons, destroying infrastructure, and hindering the export of vital grains. This has sent shockwaves throughout the global food market, contributing to rising prices and raising fears of shortages. The impact of the war extends far beyond Ukraine's borders. Russia, another major agricultural powerhouse, has seen its exports restricted due to sanctions and disruptions in shipping routes. This has further tightened global supplies, sending prices soaring and exacerbating food insecurity, particularly in countries heavily reliant on imports from the Black Sea region. The war in Ukraine is a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our global food system and the vulnerability of this system to geopolitical shocks. Conflicts in one part of the world can have ripple effects that reverberate across continents, disrupting supply chains, driving up prices, and pushing vulnerable populations into hunger. The high cost of growing fertilizer prices and the unseen impact on your grocery bill. The rising cost of farming inputs, particularly fertilizers, is a hidden driver of the impending food crisis. Fertilizers, essential for boosting crop yields and ensuring soil fertility, have seen their prices skyrocket in recent years, squeezing farmers' profit margins and threatening to push the cost of food even higher. This surge in fertilizer prices is a result of a confluence of factors, including supply chain disruptions, increased energy costs, and export restrictions. The production of nitrogen fertilizers, a mainstay in modern agriculture, is heavily reliant on natural gas, which has seen its price surge due to geopolitical tensions and increased demand. This has driven up the cost of producing and transporting fertilizers, making it more expensive for farmers to maintain their usual levels of fertilization. Adding to the woes of farmers, export restrictions imposed by major fertilizer-producing countries like China and Russia have further tightened global supplies and fueled price volatility. This perfect storm in the fertilizer market is having a cascading effect on food production, making it more expensive to grow the crops that feed the world. A case study in scarcity: Idaho's potato predicament and what it means for the world. The humble potato, a staple food for millions around the world, offers a stark illustration of the challenges facing global food production. In Idaho, the leading potato-producing state in the United States, a confluence of factors, including drought, heat waves, and rising input costs, has led to a significant decline in potato yields. This has resulted in smaller potatoes, higher prices, and concerns about potential shortages. The potato shortage in Idaho is not an isolated incident. It is a microcosm of the larger crisis confronting global agriculture. As climate change intensifies, bringing with it more frequent and severe droughts, heat waves, and extreme weather events, farmers around the world are facing similar challenges. From the wheat fields of Russia to the rice paddies of Vietnam, the story is the same: lower yields, higher prices, and growing concerns about food security. The potato, often taken for granted as a cheap and abundant source of calories, serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of our food system. When even a staple crop like the potato becomes susceptible to shortages and price spikes, it is a clear indication that the global food system is under immense stress. The domino effect: from farm to table, how rising food prices impact us all. The rising cost of food is not just a concern for farmers and economists, it is a crisis that touches every aspect of our lives. As food prices rise, the cost of living increases for everyone, eroding purchasing power, straining household budgets, and pushing millions into food insecurity. This domino effect ripples through the economy, impacting everything from restaurant menus to school lunch programs, leaving no sector untouched. For families struggling to make ends meet, rising food prices can be devastating. As the cost of basic staples like bread, milk, and meat increases, families are forced to make difficult choices, often sacrificing nutritious foods for cheaper, less healthy options. This can have long-term consequences for the health and well-being of families, particularly children, who are most vulnerable to the impacts of malnutrition. The rising cost of food also has broader economic implications. As consumers spend more on groceries, they have less disposable income to spend on other goods and services, potentially leading to a slowdown in economic growth. This can create a vicious cycle where rising food prices contribute to economic hardship, which in turn further exacerbates food insecurity. The looming food crisis is a complex and multifaceted challenge, but it is not insurmountable. Addressing this crisis requires a multi-pronged approach, involving governments, businesses, and individuals working together to build a more resilient, sustainable, and equitable food system. Governments have a crucial role to play in mitigating the crisis by investing in agricultural research, promoting sustainable farming practices, and providing safety nets for farmers and consumers. This includes supporting the development of drought-resistant crops, improving water management systems, and providing financial assistance to farmers struggling to cope with rising input costs. Businesses, particularly those in the food and agriculture sectors, must prioritize sustainability and resilience in their operations. This includes reducing food waste throughout the supply chain, investing in more efficient production methods, and supporting fair labor practices. Individuals can also contribute by making conscious choices about the food they consume, reducing food waste at home, and supporting local food systems. By choosing sustainably produced food, reducing meat consumption, and composting food scraps, individuals can collectively make a difference. A future of empty plates? The convergence of droughts, geopolitical conflicts, and rising input costs has created a perfect storm threatening to upend the global food system. The consequences of inaction are dire, soaring food prices, widespread hunger, and social unrest. However, by acknowledging the urgency of this crisis and taking swift and decisive action, we can mitigate the worst impacts and build a more resilient and equitable food future for all. The choice is ours: a future of empty plates or a world where everyone has access to safe, affordable, and nutritious food.